All right, welcome back. Thanks for joining the show. That age-old question, right? How much money should I keep in cash and how much money should I keep in the market? Oh, only the individual investor can really answer that, but some recent research suggests that cash may be the choice for more folks than we think, even as these rates go lower and stocks go higher. Assets in money markets reached $7.7 trillion last week. Now, this rush to money funds began in 2022, and investors have been enjoying higher returns on their cash than they have in the past. But it's at a price, right? The stock market has way outpaced the cash gains, but some investors are undeterred. How about this? It is indeed a wall of cash because it's not going to be going anywhere, said Peter Crane, president of Crane Data. And this rates going down is not going to chase me into stocks, said Mr. Tom Ward, a 64-year-old recruiter in Michigan. He adds, I really don't have a problem sitting on the sidelines. Wow. All right. Well, my next guest will have something to say about all this. Please welcome to the show Mr. Keith Fitz-Gerald. Coming to us all the way from the West Coast. Keith is in Seattle, Washington, I believe. There we go. All right, Keith, we talk about it a lot, but the investors that have chosen to go into some of these cash funds, I think that's a losing trade 100% of the time over 20 years. What say you?
Well, the numbers certainly bear that out, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong if you've got enough wherewithal and you can get a comfortable living sitting in cash. The problem is that people don't understand they're trading short-term security for long-term solvency, Scott. When I first started my career, we used to regularly model, sort of death assumptions at 80, 85 years old. Now 95 or even 100 is probably appropriate because the last thing you don't want to have happen, right? You don't want to wake up when you're 85 years old and realize you got 15 years to go and no cash left.
So wait a minute. I mean, the average life expectancy in the country is like 74 years old, and you're modeling out to 85, 90, or 90, 95?
Well, yeah, because the average 70-year-old today, I mean, let's just start with a nice round number. The average 70-year-old has a 1 in 5 chance of living to be 95. The average 70-year-old has a 1 in 10 chance of living to be 100 or more. And so back in the day, we used to say, okay, 70, maybe you had to go 10 years. Now you have to go 15, 20, perhaps even 30 years. So I would submit respectfully, you've got to be in the market longer and more aggressively than all of the conventional financial planning that we've dealt with for decades suggests.
So let's go back to what you said the first time around, because I think that's then the most important thing I've heard from you in a while, that you're trading short-term comfort and satisfaction for long-term solvency. Maybe you can you go into that a little deeper?
Absolutely. Because again, what you're doing is you're saying, hey, I can't control these risks. I'm comfortable on the sidelines. Nothing's going to chase me in, to use the words of one of your viewers you just quoted. But that's great. That's fine. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. But you've got to understand the trade-off. And most investors simply don't. Because if that same 70-year-old wakes up at 85 and all of his cash or her cash is gone, that's not going to, the pain of sitting aside today is going to pale in comparison to the pain of not having that cash available at some point in the future.
And a lot of the stats bear that out. That's what I said to you. I know that over 20 years, stocks will outpace cash 100% of the time. And so if you've got that much time left in the market, you have to keep that in mind, right? And so okay, go ahead.
I'd say, I was going to say, I pulled some numbers to really drive this point home, right? So if you're sitting on cash and you're at 4%, okay, fine, that's great. But if you'd invested in the SPY, a very common ETF, over the last 10 years, you would have done 305%. That same 1,000 would be worth 4,000. If you'd invested in Microsoft, that same 1,000 would be worth 13,000. NVIDIA, that same 1,000 would have gone up 32,746% and be worth $328,461.50. So again, if you're okay with the trade-off, you don't want to cut into the markets, that's great, but you might be kidding yourself.
Yeah, I mean, when you put it like that, and you take the boring stats that I was quoting, it almost forces you into stocks, right? And so then we have to play that game. It's not really a game, but as the Fed is cutting rates, and they may be on a rate cut campaign, I don't know how low we'll end up going, but each time they take rates lower, that should be forcing some of these people into the stock market. That's why the stock market generally goes higher, correct? That's the relationship?
Well, that's the theory, right? But again, COVID and lots of other things, geopolitics, the current political situation in our country in particular, that's scaring a lot of people to death. And I get it. I mean, I respect that, right? But it does not change the fact that we've been through this before. We've been through war, expansion, feast, famine, hundreds and hundreds of different permutations over the last several hundred years of market history. And every single time, innovation continues to produce profits. So, moral of the story is anybody who sits on the sidelines may feel safe, but 20, 30 years from now, they're going to feel a lot of pain for having made that decision and realizing that everybody else around them has lots of money and lots of prosperity. They may be no better than where they started.
And so, real quick before we go, I'd like to get your comments then on some of these old-fashioned markers that we used to adhere to, 60-40 portfolios, 60% stock, 40% bonds. Those haven't been doing too well, have they?
No, and this is akin to financial heresy, but my research shows very clearly those things haven't worked in a very long time. So respectfully, if anybody out there is watching and they're working with a financial planner who still got you actively invested in those things, you might want to ask some tough questions and or look for a different financial planner because the world is going to be very different than the one we've left behind. Exponential technology is going to create exponential profit potential. And so even if, again, your cash 4%, inflation is at 3%, you lose half your purchasing power in 24 years or sooner, particularly if you start talking about medicine and end of care and life and all sorts of other things.
I mean, you make some massive points there, and this is going to be life-changing for a lot of folks because arguably the dot-com bubble era was life-changing. There was some great opportunities then. And I know, or I think we both would agree, we're on the cusp of another big one with artificial intelligence. That's going to be another big one that we're all going to be on board for. So if you're my age, I'm 59, this is probably going to be your last shot at getting on board a really good move like this, and you shouldn't let it go by too quietly, right?
Missing opportunity is always more expensive than trying to avoid risks you can't control, Scott.
Oh, my gosh. What a great hit today. Thank you very much. You've been awesome,
Thank you,
Keith.
Scott.
Those are great sayings. Appreciate you coming on, brother. See you again next week.